Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and I hope that all of you are doing very well. Thank you for being part of our fourth talk in the Combating COVID-19 webinar series. And in this month, we have been bringing different speakers every week to share insights and help us navigate through these challenging times. I'm Maggie, the Incubation and Ecosystem Lead at the Mills Fabrica, and I'm the facilitator for today. And in this webinar, we'll be talking about how to use retail tech to drive sales digitally. And you'll learn about two key things: how to tap into tech-savvy consumer groups through social commerce platforms, and how to create creative content through interactive video experience. Today, we have invited CEOs of two of our portfolio companies, with Juliet from Gossip and Caroline from Smulders to share with us on the topics. And lastly, we'll open up the floor for the Q&A session. For the first part, we have invited Juliet, the CEO and co-founder of Gossip, and we'll be exploring how to leverage social commerce platforms to drive sales. Hello, Juliet. Maybe we can start with you sharing a bit about yourself and Gossip.
So my name is Juliet, the co-founder of Gossip. So hi everybody. So maybe I'll take a quick chance to explain a little bit what Gossip is doing. So Gossip is a fashion search engine, and then we help our users to find the similar and alike of any fashion items, or if they want to compare prices. Very easy. What they wanted to do and needing to do, we just take a picture of the image, and then we can find them the similar and alike. Currently, we are working with over 500 merchants around the globe, from Savages to Net-a-Porter to Farfetch to Gucci directly. So we are definitely in the forefront in making all our users having a much better and smoother search journey online, and able to find the things that they like and shop.
Right. And through your interaction with the brands, and what have you observed are some of the challenges in the current retail market caused by the COVID-19?
I think that we definitely see a lot of the tough issues by different brands. And I think one of them I come across the most, which hit a few of our big merchants as well, is their location is in Italy and also in UK. And because of the lockdown and all, and also how it impacts the local currently, they have to shut down their warehouses and not able to be, during this kind of situation, to able to ship out any goods. So hypothetically and in reality, they practically need to shut down the online sales, not the website, but the checkout part. So to them, it's definitely a lot of lost revenue there. But some of them is imposed by the government that, on the quarantine and, measures that needs to be taken. So they practically need to live up with that. Now, obviously, some of the merchants are able to do it a little bit better, as if they have warehouses, not just in the Europe, geographically, and they also have, the APAC warehouses located in Hong Kong and also in Singapore, then they are not impacted as much. And in fact, we see a very strong growth in those merchants having a very strong sales growing as well.
Right, and we also have been seeing a lot of lockdowns in a lot of countries as of this moment. So how can Gossip help brands and retailers during this situation?
I think that's in all everything happen in life, right? You see danger and you see some not ideal situation, but then this also comes opportunity, I would say, because a lot of the situations that we can see, if you actually have a great online strategy to begin with, where you have actually successfully online first, which a lot of the traditional merchants in Gossip, they are actually not impacted as much. And obviously, in this case, we actually see more and more people online. From Gossip, for example, our year-on-year growth Q1 versus last year growth at least 60%. in terms of sales. So which is the good part. Now, however, some of the merchant, the branding element might not be as strong or only starting to grow, then they are not able to get benefited from a situation like this, even though they don't have the lockdown. So a lot of brands still picking up, right, how come it seems a lot of the merchants are doing quite strong, and how come I'm not so strong? I think that go back to the strategy in telling them, you know, we need to emphasize a little bit more about the branding, because this is now a time that everyone does not visit the offline shop. Everyone is looking at like things on online, whether they remember your brand to begin with, or actually they know about your shipping strategy, not strategy, they know about your shipping policy or returns policy and all that stuff. They actually get down to a very nitty-gritty point for users to decide whether, you know, if I buy today, am I going to get a severe delay or not? So it's go down to the core of how well you do your branding before. But if it's not, then it's not too late. We still share a lot of our strategy and in fact help a lot of the retail merchants that actually are not online before, and they are now growing online and doing some integrations with Gossip to try to facilitate the online part of them ASAP.
Right. So I think a lot of brands and retailers on the line right now are interested to know, so if they want to tap into this social commerce space, what are the immediate next steps for them to get started?
I think first of all, depends how far along with the brand. If some of the brand, they're actually not even online yet. So first of all, the hurdle would be not about even social commerce or not, is have they got the logistics and you know, the last mile delivery part got it set up? Because if it's not, then it would be a struggle for them, you know, to ensure that, you know, I can get my goods into my user's hand within 2 days or 4 days and all that. So that's the first part. Now, for some of the brand, actually, they're online, but they're not seeing strong enough sales. I would strongly recommend them. Gossip currently strongly recommend that you need to increase your exposure extremely, whether on Gossip or via one of our marketing strategy advisors to give it to them. Because now is practically the time where we have seen our user growth on gossip.com come up dramatically. And if you are not having enough exposure, frankly speaking, on Gossip, then it might not be able to get you in front of the merchant, in front of the user, against all the other merchant who is so heavily putting all their budgets on online advertising. In fact, we don't see them big of a slowdown of merchant advertising going online. Then I would strongly recommend them to understand where do they put and want to allocate the money online, whether on Gossip or other channels, because now is the time that we see a strong growth where everyone is staying at home and they are still, like, you know, having relatively good appetite to shop.
Right, thank you, Juliet. So I think we have now an overview on the current retail situation and also how Gossip can help the brands and retailers to increase exposure on the digital space. And Juliet will stay online until the end where we have the Q&A session. So if you guys have other questions for Juliet, please feel free to type it on Zoom chat. And now I think we can move on to the next session where we have Caroline to share with us. So Caroline is the founder and CEO of Smulders. And in this part, we'll talk about how to curate creative video content to interact with audience and consumers. And I will stop share at the moment. Okay. Hi, Caroline, it's all yours.
Hi, nice to
share
meet
your
you,
screen.
Yes. There we go.
Sure. So maybe to start off, Caroline, would you be able to share with us a bit about yourself and Smulders?
Yes, so we are a company that works in the video space. So we kind of built it on the fact that obviously video and visual content is a very powerful way to tell a brand story and to showcase products, but traditionally it's showcased in a very passive way. which makes it quite difficult for consumers to find the items that you're actually showcasing. And also for brands, it actually leaves a huge kind of a missed opportunity to do something more. So what we wanted to do was to build an easy way for brands to turn their visual content interactive. So we have this platform that basically adds an interactive overlay to any videos that live online, to try and help companies with driving more engagement, and also enabling direct conversions from content as well. And then off the back of it, we also have a platform that provides data to actually understand how this works and what people like and what they don't like, and how to improve your kind of video strategy overall. Since we started the business, so we're a London-based company, so a lot of our clients have been in Europe, in the fashion and luxury space largely. And I'll show you quickly an example of one of the videos on an e-commerce website, just so you have an idea. So this would have normally just been a regular video, but now that it's got the smarter overlay, you can click on anything within the video that will then show you all the relevant products. And also has this kind of a carousel that will then show everything that's available in the video. So kind of turning this one video asset into almost like a mini shop. And then on mobile, it behaves a little bit differently to optimize for that, but ultimately has the same functionality where you can again explore everything within the same video unit. And this is just a slightly different example of it from COS.
Okay, cool. So I think maybe we can talk a little bit about what you have observed about the trends that in the retail space driven by the current COVID-19 situation.
Yes, so I guess Juliet obviously touched on a few of these things as well. And because of our client base being largely European, we've obviously had quite a big impact as a result of the lockdowns that have now been going on for a while. So obviously people are sitting in their homes and they're spending a lot more time on mobile. From speaking to our clients, mobile versus desktop traffic has gone up quite significantly in proportion. Additionally, the lockdowns and everything have obviously put quite a lot of financial pressure on people, which has then caused a situation where people are, I think they still really want to know about products and find out more, but it's maybe shifted slightly more into a browsing mode rather than immediate shopping and spending money. And then obviously there's the additional issue that Juliet mentioned, that actually some companies actually can't even sell online because they can't deliver the product right now. But I think there's still that mindset of wanting to learn more and also wanting to be entertained. So kind of creating anything that helps with these areas, I think is going to be really useful right now.
Right. I think now with the social distancing measures, a lot of people are staying home and spending lots of time on the social network. So can Smulders videos work on different channels?
Yes, so I'll show you a few examples. So we started the company with a focus on very much on e-commerce websites, but since then we've also extended it to other channels. Like you mentioned, people spend a lot of time on channels like Instagrams and TikToks and things right now. So here's a couple of examples of basically using the format as an alternative on Instagram. So you can turn Instagram stories, again, super easily shoppable for people to discover products and ability to buy directly from it if they wanted to do so. And this is just a different example of this same thing from a different company with Paco Rabanne. And in addition to social, I think there's also a lot of other ways brands can engage with their customers. I think email is sometimes maybe thought of quite maybe an old school thing, but actually email can have quite a engaged customer base with your existing customers to share some new content with them. So again, this is an example of something we did with Dior, where they linked it shoppable video directly from their newsletter, and again making it a little bit different and making it more fun to use, and drove very high engagement rates using this format in here. And then there's also, I guess, on a separate side, so this will then depend on, I guess right now, on how companies are investing in online advertising, given that there's been an impact on budgets and things. But if that is something that is available, it's possible for companies to also run this in video ads. So let's say if someone is reading something on Vogue and there's a video, again, they can easily discover more information from it without actually having to leave the article, giving a slightly different experience from normal in there as well.
Right. I think the audience would be also interested to know about, across all these channels, how can brands actually measure the performance?
Yes. So for understanding how this actually works for you, for your company, we have a dashboard where you can kind of see what people are actually doing with the video. So what they're viewing, what they're clicking on, what they're interested in. On average, we see between 30 to 50% of people who watch a video, they actually interact, view more product details. And then from the viewers, between sort of 10 to 15% will actually click through to the product page. Again, showing that there's real intent in doing this. And I think it's largely also driven by how social media channels work, where you can access info very easily, with shoppable images on Instagram and things like that as well. And then you can also, I guess this is more like a creative thing, but to look at actually what parts of the content perform better than others, and having a little bit more insight into the actual creative side, which is then maybe more interesting for the production teams on a kind of a little bit longer view on the content strategy side. And then we've also partnered with Google to build something new and try and help brands to, because obviously there's a huge amount of data available, but what can we do with the data that's more meaningful than just reporting it? So we've built a kind of a system where we can take video interaction data and what people have seen and expressed interest in within video, and then building automated retargeting campaigns off the back of it. And again, kind of trying to get as much use out of one piece of content as possible, especially right now when content is relatively limited because of other reasons.
Right. So we know that, so if we want to engage the audience better, then creative content is very important. But with the current situation, I think it's quite difficult for us to create new content. And how shall we deal with this challenge? And what do you see and what are you offering?
Yeah, so we initially this didn't occur to us, but obviously with the lockdown, you can't go out and shoot anything, really. So we've had a lot of discussions with brands on how can they still get content campaigns out there with what they already have. So different ways of how can you maybe repurpose a campaign video that you had in the past. Or there was something really cool done by G-Star where they got each of their kind of influencers to do runway walk in their home, and they stitched it together into a one long fashion show video, and kind of using different sources of content. And for our platform, originally we were very driven by only video, but obviously video is quite limited. So what we've done is added in a functionality where you can actually turn a set of images into an interactive unit. So you could even turn normally static image on your website into something a little bit more interactive, where you can again discover more details from it, kind of like you would from the video originally.
Right. I think for us to wrap up this session, maybe you can share with us about some of the next steps if companies are interested to get started.
Yes, so I'll show you just a really quick demo of the backend of the tagging tool where you can use the video or the images to add the products to them. So yeah, so you would upload the video or the images, and then you can upload the relevant products that you'd like to include in the video. So either we can pull them from the site or you can copy in the details. And then you would simply pick the part of the video, drop the products onto it, and create the clickable areas for it. And then basically say how long it's there for, and then you're able to share the video directly onto the different channels, whether it's for social or your website, or for any paid ads.
Cool. Thank you, Caroline. And I think in this section, we have all learned more about how brands can create this kind of videos across different platforms and how to attract more consumers from the social network. And now here is the Q&A section. So we'll open up the floor for questions, and please feel free to send over your questions on Zoom chat or send me an email at maggie.look@themills.com.hk. And I see that we already have a few incoming questions. So the first one is from Seth. It's, it's mainly about the budget spent on social and digital advertising promotion. So most of them are actually formulated against ROI from sales. And now with the lockdown and in the absence of sales, so are there any significant reductions in media costs being seen? So both Juliet and Caroline, please feel free to address what you've seen.
I think from my part, we have seen, definitely we have seen some of them are more conscious with their budget, only purely because, you know, if the warehouses are like being in terms of having a lockdown altogether, which they can't ship. But however, for those who have quite a strong online strategy, apart from that, they're actually not decreasing any of the budget, and they still go where it is. And some of the merchants still seeing, you know, great ROI results like before. Now, but however, I do see a lot of the merchants actually are hunting for traffic in terms of how they look at the ROI instead of just, you know, traditionally sales, because now they know that this is the time to get the eyeballs of everybody to know more about my brand, where traditionally they might do a lot of the media buys like offline, and now it's not a reality to do anything offline at all. So they treat basically online, not from sales, but predominantly now, you know, how many eyeballs and, you know, how many clicks can get to my website. So they definitely, maybe I can say there's a shift in terms of the focus into how to drive it. But unless the merchant really have the lockdown, then otherwise I can see more of a shift than an actual reduction. What about you, darling?
Yeah, so we definitely know from brands that their advertising costs have gone down. So it's cheaper to run ads on Instagrams and paid media. Also, if you'll notice on Instagram, there's a lot less kind of large brands. It's a lot of really small ones that you maybe normally don't see there. From speaking to companies, at least here, there's kind of two ways. Some of them have gone quite sort of panic mode and shut down their budgets and pushed them to, they're talking about June, thinking things are going to get better. And then there's other ones though, like you said, who actually they're like, okay, well, maybe people aren't buying, but you need to do this for the brand awareness perspective. And they're shifting all of their budget that's normally for outdoor advertising and things like that into digital. So, but it is a real mix of companies really panic and don't know what to do and stop. And then some of them trying to drive the awareness side.
So touching upon this, there is actually another question, which is kind of like a follow-up. So Iris from Edsel would like to know that the current online offline sales shares of the industry in general, do you have any estimation, or what do you expect the figures to be in the upcoming time? Any thoughts on that one?
This is only my ballpark figure from, informal chats that I have with some of the merchant. Currently, I think they experience a lot of the merchant less than 20% of the offline sales. I won't say zero, but I would say definitely less than 20%. And if there is any sales at all, then it will be majority, the rest of the portion will be from online. Now, obviously, from gossip perspective, we deal with a lot of e-tailers, which they actually don't have shop to begin with. Now, but the unfortunate part is we also work with a lot of brands direct, and then which they are definitely strongly impacted on. Not only they losing foot traffic of offline sales, it is practically non-existent, I would say. But obviously, there's still a lot of the, the long tail customer and the VIPs one are still placing, the order directly with them. So it's still, like counted offline sales. But I suppose once that it get lifted up, especially in Hong Kong over the weekend when I go out, it's actually quite a lot of people on the street. And people are feeling, like, not FOMO, but they haven't been out for a long time. You do want to spend your money a little bit. I still see people ordering freaking caviar, and I still people, they feel more hopeful about, the environment, the less confirmed case now, they want to be cheerful and happy. So I would call that a little bit more of a hopeful spending that we can see. So I suppose if Hong Kong can stay the way it currently is, the way to deal with viruses, then probably by June it will be getting a lot better in terms of the whole environment. Is more control, and the global panic start, to die down a little bit. Yeah.
I'm hoping in London will follow at some point. So I've spoken with a couple of online retailers as well, and they've kind of managed to keep their sales level or like tiny increase, but also that there's quite drastic differences in certain categories. Like, for example, they apparently do really well with like sneakers, with loungewear, home stuff, whereas anything with like dresses and beauty and that stuff is down. But this is again very correlated to the lockdown of people like kind of athleisure companies are probably doing pretty well right now, because people think this is the only thing you can wear right now, not to get stopped by the police. But yeah, I think proportionally, obviously, online will be a much bigger percentage of overall revenue. But the absolute number from our clients, there's a few exceptions, but generally, I don't think it's changed that much. But at least they managed to maintain it.
Right, thank you. And then we have another question from Koff from Extra Brands. So I think it's more for Smulders. Caroline, you briefly touched on this. So which social does this work on? Facebook, IG, or TikTok?
So yeah, you can use it across Facebook, so Instagram and Facebook, and there are some formats of TikTok where you can use it as well. On the TikTok ads, not on regular TikTok posts.
Right. Actually, following up on that question, I do have a question for you. So across all the platforms, do you see that which platforms works better or like have the most active brands engagement and traction with the consumers? And during the COVID-19, are there any changes in this?
Yeah, so I think Instagram is definitely the platform where it does really well, and actually also on brands' own e-commerce websites. So I think if once people end up on someone's e-com site right now, they have a bit more time, then they really want to engage and learn more. So I think the social and the own e-commerce are the two that work well. The TikTok thing is something really new that I can't say data from yet. But I would assume that would be a similar case to Instagram.
Right, thank you. And for the audience on the line, please feel free to type your questions here, and then Juliet and Caroline are happy to address. And perhaps now a couple questions from my side. And I think Juliet briefly touched on how the brands are changing, like shifting their focus on driving traffic rather than ROI. Perhaps can you share a bit on what about the consumer side? So are there any changes in the consumer shopping habits, particularly in the millennial segment that you have seen?
As Caroline just said, like basically a lot of the millennials, and actually not only millennials, are shopping for I would say athleisure, that kind of segment, like literally from yoga to sweatpants and all that. Like I, for example, wearing tee with like black pants is cool and easy, and like definitely for home shopping, I mean home working or even office working. And most of my staff are wearing, like cooler stuff, I would say. I don't even see people wearing jeans as much anymore. This is exactly a very funny phenomenon. They might have been going to a hike before they go back to office, but I've definitely seen a big shift in terms of how they want to spend their money. And the yoga pants and stuff definitely is a large part. I do feel a lot of people completely change their habit to be a lot healthier, like doing more sports, like it's really funny. I've seen people not doing any sports before at all, and now all of a sudden become pretty fit, and then get into cooking a lot, and even though get into shooting cooking videos on their Instagram. So the cooking and that part become more prominent, as to dictate also you're not going to wear a gown when you do your hiking. You're not going to wear like anything extremely fancy, but you still want to look cool and chic. So in terms of the search volume and also sales, we've seen this is going on like a really big surge in terms of the search volume in these two categories, the sportsman wear and also some home styling product. On the other hand, home lifestyle goods, we also see a big increase in terms of sales, like, aroma, like candles, like, these kind of things are very hot in demand comparatively.
Right. And I think I have a question for both of you. So in facing this kind of shopping habits changes, so do you see that the brand's digital marketing campaigns have changed in terms of their content or frequency or targeting groups?
Caroline, you want to take that?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest changes that we've maybe had from conversations is a shift away from this kind of planning for the next year type of thing. So even with speaking with media agencies previously, they would plan the whole fiscal year and that's it. Whereas now they're looking at it much more month to month basis. They're obviously then having challenges on the actual content creation side, which, they probably now still have things they maybe filmed at the beginning of the year, whereas they're going to start running out of content now. So I think definitely they have to be a lot more sort of agile in terms of how they plan and do things. And I think also, especially from agencies, actually, we've seen quite a big increase in requests for something new. And I think they're getting a lot of pressure from brands to say, okay, well, you need to do something more now than just run your regular campaigns like you used to. So I think there's been much more push for innovating in digital in general.
Right. So anything else to add from Juliet? Otherwise, I think we can go on to the next question.
I agree with Caroline largely on this one.
Right. So I think maybe another question that all of us are interested in is that, so if COVID-19 recovery takes longer than we expect, then would you have any advice for brands and retailers how they should react right now?
In fact, I would say whether it anticipated to go like on longer or not, we always need to prepare for the worst. But I wouldn't entirely recommend to stay out of it and still in the panic mode, because this is also a time that you see so much opportunity to get people understand your brand more is really the time that you get on sharing your brand value. This is the time that people want to see your value, rather than this handbag is just like for, you know, $20,000. And I have seen brands like, let's say Nike, for example, did a very, very good campaign into letting people know about the brand value. So from my user point of view, like, I understand that, wow, they are actually very, you know, health conscious and all that, which I like Nike in general, but like now I feel that, wow, this is a brand that, you know, like really care this kind of value to the bone. Now, then it makes me remember of this brand more and more loyal to the brand. So whether I'm wanting to spend like right now or this next month, I would definitely spend something regardless. And then when everything can get back to the normal, then people, that will be the first brand that people wanted to spend, even though they don't spend now. So I definitely see a lot of the brands like getting to the value part of the proposition a lot more. And unfortunately, of course, like this also take marketing expense and budget to blast it online. As the frequency now, people to get online in terms of how's the frequency they look at Instagram or TikTok, I frankly speaking, even though increase my, you know, frequency, I would say about twice, because I practically have nothing else to do at Netflix at home these days. So I'm either, even when I'm watching Netflix, I'm still half flicking Instagram. It sounds weird, but I literally do that. I don't understand, but I do. So this is, if talking about people are doubling their time on Instagram, this is the only time you're needing to, you know, throw all the eggs in there, because it is a one-time lifetime opportunity. I don't see people are that active on social media, and brands should not be pull out from that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, I think a time like this as well, maybe brands will be more open-minded towards also testing things, because things are already pretty bad. So the risk element of something going wrong, it's kind of less. And also there's so much stuff out there that can actually have a really big impact and have less effort. And also, I guess not knowing how long it's going to go on for, seeing how can you make the most of the resources that you already have, and how can you really extend that. And there's been some really interesting things that we've heard, for example, from a lot of the luxury brands in Europe, who they're in lockdown, their stores are closed, the stores associates can't work. So these people are just sitting there doing nothing. So how can you use those people who know your brand and know your product to maybe create some content for you, or do something else useful during this time? And actually maybe in the future, they will have different roles in your business beyond just being a stores associate. There's also there's a company called Hero, who allow you to kind of talk to store associates from the e-com site to learn more about products. And I think there will be a lot of innovation in things like this. And brands should definitely experiment more. And especially now if you look at media costs and things, they are a lot cheaper than normal. So again, you don't need huge budgets to do little tests with things.
Right. I think we have time for 1 to 2 more questions. So I got one from the audience. So comparing Facebook and IG, which has higher CTR and which one is more effective? Caroline and Julia.
I think from our side, Instagram, for sure, especially for fashion and beauty.
Yeah. From what I see, I think both of them are now beating at a very cheap rate, more or less. Good. If you talk about conversion, I think it's still largely depending on what's your demographic. If you are looking for the millennial group below 30, freaking go all in on Instagram. But if you're not, then if you still want to like get to the 30 to 45 years old, I would then still say Facebook, because they're more or less beating at the same price currently. Conversion rate, I'm definitely 100% betting on Instagram, as I practically myself looking at Instagram 24/7 these days. And if I'm not even exaggerating in that number.
Right, thank you. I think to wrap it up, perhaps both of you can share one thought, maybe what is your biggest learning from this crisis?
I would say, well, crisis is definitely hit people mentally pretty hard, as it's really impacting all our life, you know, like health. And even though we send our regards to our dear merchant elsewhere, I think first of all, don't get panicked. Things will always get better. We are human beings. We survived from the dinosaur age and all that. So I do think, like, you know, in the British saying, like stay calm and keep going is very extremely relevant that I put it on my forehead. However, if you talk about the business side, because it will get better. And I actually already seen a big improvement comparing to, in terms of numbers for merchants and us comparing to the early outbreak time for Hong Kong. We are the first 2 countries that get hit quite hard. And I can already see like a dramatic improvement on that. So I think that really keep going and believe in the strategy that you drive more and react to the market more reactively, rather than stay panicked, not do anything, or budget that he now just hold on to the cash and stuff. Yes, we get that, but it also could be an opportunity that makes you fly high and shine. That's really my advice, because ultimately I understand it takes a bit more deep down to see whether you still want to spend or not. But I've seen many successful cases where one of my top merchants not get impact at all, and the ROI that they see is still like 8 to 10 comparing to the investment that they spend on gossip, which is extremely high, I would say. So the first part is getting into the get out of the virus is like, and the crisis is, don't panic. Things will get better. Keep your head cool. You will know the best strategy for your own brand.
Cool. Thanks, Jillian. And Caroline, anything from you?
Yeah, I think it's kind of forced us to, look beyond the use cases for the product and what are the maybe new problems that have come up as a result of this, and how can we tweak things to help with that. So it's, again, being quite open-minded in things and having maybe different types of conversations that you would normally. Yeah, again, just being flexible.
Cool. Thank you very much, both Julian and Caroline, and thank you for sharing with us today. And of course, thank you, the audience, for your participation. And if